and welcome to the June edition of Coffee and Kolaches at the National Czech and Slovak Museum and Library in Cedar Rapids. We're so excited today because we have a nice crowd attending, and we're always so grateful when our volunteers and our members come and join us on this monthly program in which we kind of update you on what's going on at our National Czech and Slovak Museum and Library. And today is kind of a mixed blessing because we're going to say farewell, but I think we're going to get you as a volunteer to our wonderful cataloger in our library, Leroy Bradway. And Leroy came to us about 12 and a half years ago on a grant for a year and a half, but we captured him and we had him with us for a year and a half. And Leroy, we are definitely going to miss you, but I hope we see you. So tell us about how you got started at the museum. You've been the right hand of Dave Molina, our librarian. We couldn't have done what we did without you. So tell us what you did and how you got started.
Oh my. Um, I was actually between jobs when I first applied. And so we're living with one of our children in Salt Lake City. And a friend of ours whose son is on the, works for the State of Iowa Library, um, learned that through that son, he knew about this position. And so she passed it on to me, and we applied. And so we came for an interview with Dave and with a couple of the other people here. And they offered me the position, and I said yes. And so came here and started on, I think it would have been February 6th of 2012.
Wow. We were so lucky to have had you, and still, this is your last day with us, right?
Yes.
And you know, Leroy came to us, and I wasn't lucky enough to be here at that time yet, but you came with us to us with a wealth of experience because he was in Slovakia working for several years. You want to tell us about your Slovak connection, and so you were such an ideal fit for us?
Okay. It turned out that my wife and I went to Slovakia for 1 year to teach English at the Evangelické Lyceum. That's basically a Lutheran high school there in Bratislava. And we did that. And then our youngest daughter wanted us back in this country for her senior year of college. So we came back, you know, have to be good parents. And while so during that year, I was doing an interim pastorate and in Knoxville, Iowa. And one of the people that we had originally gone to Slovakia with, who was working at the Lutheran seminary there, emailed me and asked if I would be willing to come back and catalog the Lutheran seminary library.
In Bratislava.
In Bratislava. And I said, well, okay. And so we worked out the details, and so we moved back to Slovakia. We actually lived in the basement of the new seminary building at that time, and did that for, well, it was supposed to be 2 years. It wound up being 4 years. I enjoyed it. It was an experience there in that library because this was a new building. They had realized after they'd gotten the building constructed, they hadn't really figured out how to have a place for a library. But they had this very large room, larger than this one, that was empty. So they said, okay, we can put the library there. And they contacted churches and group of church officials, both in Germany and the U.S., and they got money to install the collapsible shelving like we have in our back room here. And the so all the books got moved into that room, plus churches and groups from Germany and the United States donated thousands of books. And I say thousands, I don't know enough. I'm guessing probably going to be 20 or 30,000.
Wow.
Which was great. One of the things that happened, though, the old collection that they had was moved to the library. And they had a card catalog for that. But one of the seminary professors who had been to the U.S. and had seen how the libraries here in this country are organized, basically organized being on the shelf by subject.
Mm-hmm.
But over there, they had a closed library system in which you would go up to a window at the library and talk to a librarian and said, I want to have, borrow this book. And they would say, okay, I'll look for it, come back in 2 or 3 days, and I'll tell you if we have it or not. So that person thought, well, that's not very efficient. Well, one of the things that happened there was that those libraries were set up with the idea that they were put on the shelf in order of their receiving the book. So that means on any given shelf, you might have a book about the Gospel of John, next to a book about farming, next to a book about being a military chaplain. So it's a completely different system. One of the professors there who had been in the U.S. and saw how our system works here said, oh, that really works pretty well. So basically, he went down to the library and said, okay, we're going to reorganize the library. And they moved books around, but that completely ruined their card catalog.
Oh.
Because the card catalog no longer reflected where those books were standing. So it's my job to come in, particularly working with the English language material, to get catalog records for all of them and get them on the shelves in the proper order so you could actually find things.
Wow.
When I left, we had, over those 4 years, actually done over 10,000 items.
That's amazing. So what a great way, though, to prepare you to come here. And so now that you've been here 12 and a half years at the National Czech and Slovak Museum and Library and worked very closely with our star librarian, Dave Molina, what changes have you seen in our library here, and what challenges did you have to overcome, and where are we at now, and what's the future? That's a big question, 4 parts.
Yeah, you're going to have to help me with the parts.
Okay, so what are the changes that you've seen here?
Changes. When I first came, the basic policy was we'll accept just about anything that you give us as long as it dealt with Czechs or Slovaks in some way. Over the time here, simply because of the volume of material we were getting and the public that we are serving, very few people anymore, at least locally, can read Czech or Slovak. And so we found that we were using up a whole lot of space and time working with material that probably never would be referred to. And so there's been that gradual transition to focusing more on English language material and material that, while it might still be in Czech or Slovak, was actually published here in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a very active publishing concerns for both the Czechs and the Slovaks here in this country. So that'd be one of the changes. Our archives have grown tremendously. I'm sure Dave thought that we had plenty of space in her back on our archival shelves, probably forever. And we are almost full at this point. And we're trying to figure out where we're going to put anything more we get in terms of the archives themselves. So that's kind of the first part of the changes.
And so the second part of that is, so what have you seen in terms of technology and digitization? Has that become a big part of what we do here?
Technology, yes and no. There's certainly been changes in terms of how fast the internet connections are and et cetera. We did switch over to a different library system shortly after I came here, and that one is much more suited for our type of library. Digitization, we've done some with that, particularly when we had an archivist here. But we simply do not have the staff time to be able to do much in terms of digitization. Digitization is a very, very time-consuming position, and you really have to figure out what are the most important things you have, what's really going to be used the most, and emphasize those things, kind of prioritize them. So otherwise, you wind up spending time and money on things that will look nice, that probably really not be used much.
But you do have some digitized materials.
There is some, particularly the archivist put quite a bit of material onto the Omeka site. And some very good photos. We have the oral interviews that were done over quite a number of years. They were on that site too. And I think that has fairly good viewership.
So what are the challenges for the future?
Oh my, challenges? Well, I think there's several challenges. One, within this past year, we've received 3 very good-sized donations. We are running out of room in back. This last very large donation was of material from the Sisters of St. Cyril and Methodius convent in Danville, Pennsylvania. And it's a wonderful collection. It's all Slovak-based. And we received most of their journals, which was about 200 boxes of material. There's still 2 more probably shipments to come that'll be at least as big or bigger than what we've received so far. Because of that, we've had to move some of the material that we knew would not be used a great deal. Upstairs, we had to build shelving for that, and the whole process of moving things up just to make room for stuff that we considered that, frankly, was of greater importance for research and for the long-term viability. This is material that is Slovak, and we had very little Slovak material. So this is a great addition for us.
Yeah, well, I really congratulate you and David on this, and because it's really set us, I think, an equal par of having Czech and Slovak research materials that we can attract scholars, we can attract students, and just for the common person who wants to find out more about their homelands. It's really a great resource. So
one of the other things that we received from the Charles Kern State is a large collection of English language translations of Czech works. And we haven't quite got all of that processed yet, but we have a significant number of material by Chopik and a number of other novelists that we did not have before.
Well, and I really invite our viewing audience, as you listen to these Facebook Live programs, to write to our library. We're on the website, to just write to NCSML and the library. And I know that David, without poor Leroy, will be happy to respond. And I know we're getting a replacement very soon. And do you know anything about your replacement?
Well, yes. She is, let's see, I think she's just finished up her second major. University of Michigan, I believe at Lansing. I'm not sure of that. But her specialty is in Russian studies. So she is quite fluent in Russian, which gives her a very good transition to all of the Slavic languages. She's had quite a bit of archival experience and working as a student aide there in the Department for Slavic Studies there at the university, and she's had some cataloging experience through that. So I think she'll be a very good fit for here.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of meeting her briefly when David had her in my office, and what was so exciting is her background in Slavic studies. And I think we so often forget about that the 14 Slavic countries that, you know, we Czechs, we Slovaks, we Ukrainians, we Russians, we Polish, we are all Slavic nations, and that we have a bond, really. And so once you sort of understand some of the language, you can understand and better understand the Slavic culture that we're all part of. We have our uniqueness. We as Czechs and Slovaks are very unique, but I think as Slavic people, we have a common bond. So that's exciting.
Yes, yes. I think she'll be, like I say, a very good addition. For other challenges coming up, boy, we really do need an archivist. There's a lot of material in our archives which we have not had a chance to process. Some very good things in there that simply are not available until they can actually be processed and categorized.
I have to tell you two funny stories that happened in the past 2 years. One was we had a music scholar from the Curtis Institute in Pennsylvania with us, and she was looking for a piece of music, and I said, well, go down to the library, you know, they'll help you. And she wasn't coming back, and she wasn't coming back. And so I came down here, and we were in the archives, and she was holding this music. She said, I have looked all over the world for this music, and you guys have it. And she was so excited. And then the other story was last summer when we had the person who was responsible for Czech radio and TV, Czech TV in the United States. He and his wife were visiting, and she said, you know, I've been wanting to find Madeleine Albright's dissertation, and I cannot find it. Dave goes, we've got it. So that really made me feel good that we are an epicenter, a real resource for Czech and Slovak materials, scholars, students especially. We really want to invite students. And so the last question then would be, what do you see as the future?
Oh my. It's hard to know about the future. Some things that I think will be a good thing for us, and I think for our viewers, is the creation of the NCSML TV station. We were just talking today with Dalibor and with Logan about having kind of a promotional thing available here in the library using our big TV screen back here, so that people could come in and sit and watch a little bit, get a taste of what's on there and what's available. And so they'll say, oh, okay, this is something I think I could find valuable, and be wanting to subscribe to be able to use it at home.
And I think I'm so glad that's a perfect segue to the future, because, you know, with NCSMLTV.com, people that are in Tabor, South Dakota, in Wilson, Kansas, in Ennis, Texas, if they have a Czech and Slovak program and they are saying, we don't know what to do, they can hook on in their community center to a program that's here, that's recorded, a live concert, and show it there, so that people that, you know, are in these towns that are Czech and Slovak and want to show a program that we've already recorded, they can use it. I know growing up in Tabor, South Dakota, we were always looking for programs, and we didn't have a place to get a program. So we can just go to the TV and show it in a community center. And just like the other day, we had for Hobie Days this Kiev, 32 children were here, and all in Croy, and we've got it all recorded because the songs that they sang were original. And so we, if you want to have an hour-and-a-half program in your community, just go to NCMS TV and you'll hear the whole concert of the children, when 32 children playing cymbal, bass, violins, violas, and it was great. So I think you're right. I think that technology and access to what we're doing here.
Yeah, one of the things that has impressed me about this as an institution is the wide variety of people that we have come here. We have people from California, from New York, from Florida, from the state of Washington, from Texas, Oklahoma, visitors from all over the country. We've had one researcher who's one of the councils or vice councils, I can't remember which, from California, come and do some research on what some of the Sokol units in California, who they were and some of the activities they did. And we were able to pull out some files that gave him more of a glimpse of that, more of a historical glimpse of that.
And so that reminds me to tell people who are listening today, if you have things that you're cleaning out from your parents or your grandparents and you think, oh, this is just junk, give Dave a call, and he can certainly tell you if we need it, we have it, we don't need it, but don't throw it away. I think so many times people think, well, it's old already, I don't need it, nobody can read it, and you can really find some fascinating stories from these things that people think sometimes we can just throw away.
Right. I think a good example of that, a number of years ago, a gentleman walked in and he said, I have my wife's Bible from her family. It's all in Czech. I can't read it. I wonder if you'd be interested. We receive lots of Bibles. And so David and I said, well, okay, we'll take a look at it because they are very common. This particular one is kind of unique because it's known as the St. Wenceslas Bible.
Wow.
It was, I'll give you a little bit of history here. Jan Hus was burnt at the stake in the 1400s. His followers, which became the Moravian Brethren, had, well, they had control over basically the Czech lands for a good while, close to 100 years. They had commissioned a Czech language of the official Bible. Okay. 1500, you get the Lutheran Reformation. And then late 1500s, early 1600s, you have the Counter-Reformation in which the Jesuits come back into power, particularly in Prague. At that very time, the Vatican was having the official Catholic Bible re-edited to get out, remove copying errors that crept in over the years, because up to the mid-1500s, everything was done by hand, and they didn't have the pressing, the movable press until then. Okay, so which was great. The Jesuits there in Prague petitioned Rome to have a Czech version of this new revived official version made, and they used some of the translation ideas that the Moravians had used in coming up with the official Brethren Bible. And so that book was a very vital, important link in history between, in the terms of the progression of which religions controlled and who was controlling things within those lands.
Oh, that's great. So we have it.
Yes.
That's wonderful.
It was actually published in 3 parts. We have 2 of the parts.
Okay, so there's a third part out there that if anyone has, we can certainly call us. Okay, that's great. Well, again, I think so many times we have these things at home and we don't realize the importance of them. And that way people that can come here can really do the research, do the reading. And people are just interested, like you say, to find out more stuff about their history and about where they're from. What do we do in genealogy? One more last question.
Oh, my. What do we do in genealogy? Well, we have people come in. Some have never done a thing in terms of genealogy. They know nothing about their family other than, well, I think his name was Novak, and he came in the 1800s, and all the way to cover the span of people who have extensive work done, and they're missing 1 or 2 little bits of information, and they're trying to plug in those little gaps. So we use the resources. We have print resources. We have some things online through our webpage, the museum webpage, as help for genealogy. Our goal, both Dave and mine, is that anyone who comes with a genealogy question, they are able to leave with at least 1 bit of information they did not have before, or at least a place where they could go and maybe they could get that bit of information. Dave is fantastic at that. He has a great memory for all the different places around the country who are good sources for that. I've learned a lot from him in terms of that process. And so that's really been an interesting thing for me.
Well, I think you gave a perfect answer. When people come here, and I've seen this, we want to link them up with resources. So we may not have all the answers, but we can link them up to like CGSI, Czechoslovak Genealogist Society, or other resources. So we become that center that links people. And I know that Dave's done a great job. I went with him to the CGSI National Conference last year in Milwaukee. He was like the hero. Everybody was around Dave Molina, and I was just watching and having fun watching everybody. He was a real hero because he's done so much in the field, so that's great. Well, Leroy, we are certainly going to miss you, and we wish you only the best, but I have 2 requests of you. Come back often, and know that you are always welcome. And we would love to call you a volunteer from no matter where you're at. And so come back real often, and all the best to you and your wife. And as you celebrate your 3 children and 6 grandchildren and your retirement, know that you're always valued here and you will always be a part of our community, okay? You're an honorary Czechoslovak.
Thank
So
you
all
very
the
much.
best, all the best to you. So let's have our kolaches, okay? So welcome again to this edition. Have a great day, and we'll see you in July. Should we have a bite?
Leroy, can I ask you, where did the steak Wenceslas fries come from? Did it come from Cedar Rapids? Or
Yes,
another-
it's a local family.
Okay.
Got to
Maybe
come
they
up.
were St. Wenceslas Parish people.
I do not recall. I'm trying to come up with the name of the person who donated it. It's
We do have Dave Molina, who is in the audience here. Dave Molina, maybe you could tell us where the St. Wenceslas Library came. Book.
it's kind of an interesting story there because the be the son of the person who brought it in. His wife was one of my wife's college roommates. So there was a personal connection there that we didn't realize until later.
That's great. Wonderful.
But,
I think another wonderful thing you've done, I know that because I see people bring things in all the time. If you get duplicates of a certain SOCO yearbook or something, you send them on some other Czech organization or SOCO hall. So it's real reciprocal. And I like that. You don't just say, we already have copies of it, we don't need it. You send it on some other library or some other.
we try to do that. And we have things that we do. If we have duplicates, we do donate to other institutions or universities. And they return their favor and give us things that we need. So.
And I'm so glad you said that, Pat, because that's so important. You know, a lot of these smaller town museums like Wilbur, Nebraska, Tabor, South Dakota, Wilson, Kansas, they are what I call community museums, not run by a professional staff, but are volunteers. And they're stagnant museums, other than like we turn our exhibits around, 3-4 times a year. We have different exhibits. Theirs are always the same, but they welcome new things. So they're very appreciative to our library, and that when we do share that, they're very.
It's another way we make great friends all over.
And we tell them to come here to visit. We tell them to come here to visit. Any other questions for Leroy?
Make them simple, easy.
Thank you again, Leroy. Thank you. And thank you all for coming. And there's some more collages there. And who made these today? Is Karen here? Karen? Thank you, Karen. They're wonderful. Great job. They were wonderful. Your dough is perfect, as always.